All right, one last look at your traffic and weather for this ride-in on your Tuesday morning. Happy to report no accidents right now on the major roadways coming into Columbia, so let's hope it stays that way. High today, 94, lots of sunshine. Tomorrow, 98 and cloudy. Thursday, 99. So, it's going to be hot, as it typically is in July. Currently 79 degrees here in downtown Columbia on your Tuesday on the game. Oh, 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you. Wrapping up the month of June, Jack. Believe it or not, we are, I don't think July 1st is officially the halfway point of the year. It's somewhere around there because different months have different lengths and all that kind of stuff. But we're effectively halfway through the year of 2026, which is crazy.
Let's see. How many days are we into the year? We are, my computer's being a little slow this morning. It's the 181st day remaining. So there are 184 days remaining. So we're 49.6% of the way through the year.
Okay, so July 2nd or 3rd, would I guess be the halfway point?
Yeah, because it would be 182, 183. But it wouldn't be even, though.
No, because it'd be 182.5.
Yeah.
Would officially be the halfway point.
So, tomorrow... No, but you would get through tomorrow. Mm-hmm. What's the I guess halfway into July 3rd?
Yeah, noon.
Or I'm sorry, halfway into July 2nd?
Yeah, noon on July 2nd. Whatever.
Okay, so noon on July 2nd.
50% point of the year.
All right, that will be the halfway point of the year. I'm going to remember that.
Yep.
And then I'm going to be when I'm with my family and everything, I'm going to be hey guys, we're halfway through the year.
if I remember, I'll text you happy halfway point of the year.
Yeah. Look, are you going to be on the air tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah, so you'll be on the air and at noon, just be happy halfway point of the year to everybody.
Well, this is your last day in here this week.
I know, this is.
Taking off for a week, birthday and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to miss our fun tomorrow.
I know. I just read the notes here. So they're doing some big drop sort of thing for the Nike.
Well, tomorrow's the first official day, so all the stuff will be on sale, I'm assuming. So we're going to go out there and probably see a lot of people picking up their Nike gear.
Yeah, I wonder what it's going to be like, honestly. I imagine it's going to be some pretty big thing. I'm guessing a lot of people are probably excited about this. I'm sure the internet is going to crash tonight if there's any online sales. I don't know if Fanatics is doing anything. I have no clue, but...
This is something, I said this yesterday, I think after you had left, but I've been doing this job for almost 4 years now. I came in December of 2022, and my entire time here, I've heard about the disdain that this fan base has for Under Armour. Again, the contract almost goes exactly 20 years, going back to, 2007, and people have been ready for this. Ready for them to move on for a while. So when everything was announced with the Nike right before football season last year, there was a lot of excitement, and I can only imagine the amount of people that are going to swarm to Gamecock Traditions online sales and all that kind of stuff, try and get their hands on the new era of apparel as quickly as possible.
I gotta say though, a bit disappointing that we did not see South Carolina do any big sale of the Under Armour stuff, right? How Auburn kind of did the big, garage style sale. Everything must go. I'm a little disappointed to see South Carolina didn't do something like that.
I thought I saw something on Twitter yesterday. Forgive me, I didn't bookmark it or anything like that. But I think I saw something about that sale maybe happening later. Not.
But why?
I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. I was just scrolling through and I thought I saw something about it. So maybe it hasn't happened yet. I don't know. Maybe there'll be a
It's just weird.
blowout sale later.
Weird it would happen after the fact.
Yeah.
But,
So regardless, a new era begins tomorrow. Today, the official end of the Under Armour era. In 20 years, I can't even like think back to, and I know they had like Russell Athletic before, but I can't think of any memories that I have of South Carolina related athletics not wearing Under Armour. So definitely gonna be different seeing the Nike swoosh tomorrow, or starting tomorrow and going forward.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be some, South Carolina's going to have some hype video or something or post about the whole switch. So it'll be interesting, man. It is definitely the dawn of a new day. I just saw Penn State did their farewell to Nike yesterday, and now they've switched over to Adidas. Did you see, speaking of uniforms and whatnot, did you see Nebraska's got new uniforms?
New uniforms? I did not.
Yeah, so they've got, it's still the red and white, but I think it's like the shoulder part that's different. I don't know. It's not like the plain stripes anymore. Let's see here. It's a I don't know. Apparently Nebraska fans are not too hot on it.
Well, Nebraska has a very classic look, and that's something that people don't typically like messed with. Okay, they also changed the number font. I'm a big number font guy. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like that number font. And yeah, it's almost kind of like having the Adidas logo on the sleeve a little bit. I know it's only 2 stripes instead of 3, but that if you didn't tell me who this was, I'd have a tough time figuring out that was Nebraska.
Yeah.
So I can understand.
Yeah, lots going on. I do wonder, though, I think this is the big question everyone has. And we don't even know the answer yet. Will the uniforms be different for South Carolina?
I imagine there'll be at least some small tweaks. I don't know if it's going to be a massive overhaul, which I know some people are hoping for.
I kind of hope they do something different. I don't know. I would just be very disappointed if I'm a Gamecock fan and I see the uniforms revealed as the same. Especially like if that kid that committed the other day, if that's the jersey right there, I'd be pissed. Like, I mean, that can't be the jersey.
And it could be a multi-phase type of thing. I talked to Jordan K yesterday on the halftime show, and he was talking about the process of getting orders in and all that kind of stuff. So maybe from a timing standpoint, they wouldn't have had enough time to do a complete overhaul, and maybe that's something that comes as time goes along, because unlike in the NFL, you can change as much as you want year to year in college football when it comes to uniforms, so maybe that's something that will be more of a process than like a day one, okay, let's completely do everything different type thing. I don't know. I'm sitting back and waiting for like everybody else.
But they've had a year to figure this out, right? This thing's probably been getting planned for well over a year at this point. So, I mean, I don't know. It would just... The reaction wouldn't be very good, I don't think, if it's the same exact uniform with just the Nike logo, put on there. But we'll see.
Again, new era starts tomorrow. We'll be hanging out at Gamecock Traditions on Sunset in Lexington from 9 until noon. Myself, Wes, and Chris, and then Jay Phillips will be out there from 3 until 6 as well, as we welcome in the Nike era for South Carolina. We're 67 days away from kickoff today, so we're going to talk about the 6-7 meme dance, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, did you see it's in College Football 27 this year?
No, I did not.
It is. Right about the time that it's starting to be phased out, right? Like, it's really funny. My nephew's birthday is on June 8th, and we had his birthday party on the 7th. A couple weeks ago, and when my sister texted me about that, I sent her back a 6-7 meme, and she's like, "Oh, well, he hates that." I'm like, "Good,
what?
He's going against the trends." I feel like it's dying off, right? Like, it's still there, but it's not as popular as it was, which is funny that it's now in the video game, right in time for the trend to start dying off.
That's kind of how it always is, though, right? It's always like with anything that's trending, it'll trend for a few months and then it'll die off, right?
Yeah,
I remember the days of when the what is it? The Harlem Shake was the the big thing back in
that was high school for me.
Yeah, that was middle school, 2012. What is it? Black Beatles or whatever. That was
a couple years later.
Yeah, that was a couple of years later. Yeah, I mean
that was the mannequin challenge.
Yeah, the mannequin challenge. Yeah. These kids now, they wouldn't know a thing about.
They wouldn't know about those mannequin challenges.
Yeah,
Trends come and go. I don't know. We'll see if anybody's still doing 6-7s when they score touchdowns this upcoming year or not. I mean that as a joke. More seriously, the number 67 when it comes to South Carolina is interesting because that was the number of points that William Joyce scored last year as the primary kicker for South Carolina, which was the fewest by a South Carolina primary kicker in the Beamer era, and that kind of speaks for itself. One, they weren't scoring a whole lot of points. They weren't getting into the end zone a whole lot. And also, William Joyce was somebody you didn't trust a ton when it came to longer field goals. So, as opposed to years past with guys like Mitch Jeter and stuff like that, where, all right, we'll let him try a 50-yarder and feel good about that. You weren't really letting William Joyce try too many from long range last year. Carolina just ended up kind of going forward in kind of that mid-range of that like 30 to 40-yard line in opponent's territory. So makes sense why he would have the lowest total number of points of a kicker in this 5-year Beamer era so far.
And that's the problem right there. The problem is that South Carolina has had a kicking problem the last 2 years. I think that is fair to say. And honestly, yeah, I would say the last 2 years because Mitch Jeter was here before that, and he was pretty good. So, they've had a kicker problem the last few years. I feel like the problem for South Carolina is up until now, they really hadn't gone out and addressed that need, right? They kind of stayed in-house, and there is something commendable about it. It kind of feels like the old days of college football where guys stay with the program for a handful of years, they wait their turn, and then they're eventually rewarded by, like, their senior year. And that's what we've seen the last 2 years with South Carolina with Herrera and then Joyce. That's honorable to some degree.
Sure.
But is it the best answer to win football games in this day and age? I don't know. Because obviously, if a few kicks go differently, South Carolina might have had a better season in 24 than they did. And maybe if you had a more dependable guy these last 2 years, maybe some of these games end up being differently, especially in those tighter games that you had going into the fourth quarter. So it seems like that's the philosophy on that has changed this year. They've obviously gone outside the program to look for new kickers and brought in a few guys, and now we'll see what kind of difference that makes, if it makes any.
Yeah, you have a kicking competition right now between, of course, Upton Belafont coming in from Texas Tech, Malik Orson, the transfer in from Southeastern Missouri, who was a pretty highly touted kicker in the transfer portal, Max Kelly. And I talked to Kevin Miller about this yesterday because this was in his prediction series on Gamecock Central. Don't forget about Mason Love as well. Again, not the most likely candidate, but still in the mix there. And funny enough, talking with Kevin Miller yesterday, one of his predictions in his 100 predictions for Gamecock football this year was that this kicking competition might actually stretch into the season, because typically, you have this figured out, like, past couple of years, you knew Alex Herrera and last year William Joyce were your kickers going into the first game, and they stayed that way throughout the entire season. I guess when you have, the Kent State and Towson games start the year, so 8 quarters of, again, what we hope are more stress-free football, where hopefully you're winning both those games by significant margins and can try and experiment with things if you need to. You have the ability, if you have not decided on a kicker by then, to try out multiple guys. Hopefully you're scoring a lot of points. Hopefully you're setting yourself up for some field goal attempts to give those guys live game reps to kind of figure it out, because by the time you get to Mississippi State in week number 3, I really hope you're still not having a kicking competition, but I'd be okay if you're putting the final details and touches on it in those first 2 games, if need be.
No, totally. I think that's fine if you're going to have multiple guys out there to try things out those first 2 weeks, because those are the games you can try stuff. Like, those are your pseudo, what do they call them? Not cupcake games, but like
tune-up.
Tune-up,
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, yes. They've
no disrespect to Kent State and Towson, but we know the deal.
South Carolina should be winning those games by plenty to where you can put multiple guys in.
Should, not a guarantee, but should.
Should. That goes for every position pretty much. Like, you should be able to get guys in, and those are the games that I know the red shirt rules don't exist now, but those are the games that you would put guys in to keep them under the 4-game 4-game red shirt rule, right? So the same should apply for the kicking situation. Unless you feel absolutely confident in one guy that was just dominating everyone else during the preseason camp. Preseason camp's one thing to compare to an actual game.
Yep.
But that you would hope that's the case, is that you have things figured out by that Mississippi State game.
Well, and that's the thing about the kicking competition, as opposed to you're trying to figure out who your starting running back is or linebacker and stuff like that. It's pretty black and white. Those guys line up, and I forget how many kicks Beamer says they try and attempt in a day, but it's like, all right, well, if every kicker gets 20 field goal attempts on the day, and Upton Belafont makes 19 out of 20, and the next best guy is making 13 out of 20, well, guess what? Upton Belafont's probably going to be your leader in the clubhouse for the kicking competition. It's very much you're either making them or you're not. There's no gray area there. So we'll see. We'll obviously see what intel we get from Beamer and the coaching staff through preseason camp. But with so many guys, it wouldn't shock me, I guess, if this does last into the start of the season. Here's hoping whoever the main kicker is scores more than 67 points this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll certainly see. We talked to Dow Loggins the other day on the halftime show, and he talked a little bit about seeing Xavier Legette when he got to South Carolina. And it begged the question in my mind, who's a player that Kendall Browse could look at and say, maybe we haven't used this guy enough here, and maybe I can do something with him. We'll discuss that coming up on the other side. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry along with you on your Tuesday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltru with you here on your Tuesday on the game. You know, the off-season, summertime is a great time to catch up with people we haven't heard from in a long time. And the other day, or Monday, last Friday, actually, myself and Bill Gunner, we caught up with Dow Loggins on the halftime show to catch up with everything going on with him at Appalachian State. And also, talk about how he kind of views things here at South Carolina. And one question that I asked him really initially was about, what Kendall Briles is going through this offseason of coming in as a new offensive coordinator. And he ended up talking about when he got here at South Carolina in December of 2022 and noticing Xavier Legette right away. And it spurred an interesting question in my mind. First of all, here is what Dow Loggins had to say when talking to us the other day.
Yeah, I had the advantage. I came in for the bowl game. They're getting ready to play Notre Dame. So I got to preview a little bit of the roster, and it's really where I saw Xavier Legette. And you go back, and I remember it was mid-December, and Legette walks in my office, and he's like, he's got that accent. He's like, "Oh, hey, Colt, man, I don't know if I need to transfer, Colt." And I'm like, "Nah, you don't need a transfer." I was like, "Just give us a chance." And there's two windows at that point. You're like, "Hey, if you don't like how we're going to use you in May, I'll help you myself find another home." But this guy that played 4 years and had 170 yards of production, I'm like, "Hey, just give us a chance. We have a vision for you." And the guy goes in the first round after having 1,200 yards. And so I had an advantage of watching bowl practice and kind of watching that guy, because if you just stats, I don't know if you would have seen, how he practiced, how he moved. And so then you're trying to get a great feel for the coaching staff. Because I didn't get to bring anyone with me. The first year I brought 2 analysts, and coming from Arkansas, and you get there, you're trying to get a feel for what they were, what we believed in. You're trying to sell your vision of the offense and trying to figure out what exactly Spencer Rattler is comfortable with. So the great thing for those guys there, for Kendall, is there's a lot of tape on a really, really good player, maybe the best player in college football at quarterback over there. And I'd probably argue the second best player in college football is the defensive end over there. So I think it's a great marriage. I think it's a great fit. I'm a big fan of Kendall. We obviously got to work together at Arkansas, and I think I'm excited for the quarterback as well.
So I want to go back to that first part there, because again, and we've heard him tell the story many times about he gets to see those practices leading up to the Gator Bowl, and he's like, "Hey, who is 17?" Like, "Oh, that's Xavier Legette, a guy that hadn't done a ton in his, basically 4 years at South Carolina up to that point." And while it was assisted by Juice Wells getting injured early in the 2023 season, he ends up going out there having 1,000-yard a year and ends up being a back half of the, first-round pick for the Panthers, and obviously, ends up having a phenomenal year here in his final year at South Carolina. So it kind of begged the question in my mind as Kendall Briles comes in. Now, he didn't have the benefit of watching a bowl practice, obviously, but he got to be a part of spring practice and has spent a lot of time with these guys so far. Is there anybody on this offensive roster that you look at and be like, is that a guy that Kendall Briles may be able to untap that we haven't quite seen enough out of yet?
By the way, D'Lo can still do a tremendous
yes, he can.
XL accent.
Yes, he can.
I love when he does those. It's so funny. When I look at this offense, I don't know what the tight end usage is going to look like, but I got a feeling Brady Hunt is due for like a breakout type of year. I kind of view him as being a little bit similar to not XL, but like in terms of like the breakout potential just out of nowhere. Yeah, I feel like if tight end usage goes up a little bit more in this offense, I feel like Brady could be a guy that he did some good things last year. I think he could be a guy that, I'm not saying he's going to have 1,000 yards. Obviously, that's just not. I don't think that's realistic. But can you get to like a Josh Simon type year when D'Lo, really utilized Josh Simon during that 24 season to where he became Lenore's go-to weapon? I feel like that could be an underrated part of this offense, because we know they have skill guys everywhere. They have better running backs this year, more guys in that room. Your receiver room continues to be loaded. But that tight end group, I feel like that is an underrated room, and it's led by someone who's back for his 3rd year at the program, and Brady Hunt. So I feel like he's someone that is definitely due to get some more usage this season.
Yeah, and the usage, I think, is the key part of that, because, again, he's in position to be your primary tight end this year. Again, we'll see how they rotate between him, Mo Brown, Max Drag, Mike Tyler, all those kind of guys. But Brady Hunt is likely going to be your option number one there, tight end. But you're right. I mean, we just didn't see as much usage of the tight end, this past year compared to like what D'Lo was using. And we'll see how Kendall Briles decides to do that. But that's a good candidate. I kind of look at like a Jaworn Howell, right? And look, we're still wondering exactly how this running back room is going to shake out. How we saw some promise from him a couple years ago. Obviously, famously, fumbles in the bowl game against Illinois, never gets another touch out of that, and just didn't get a whole lot of touches a season ago. But the running back room as a whole struggled, didn't have good blocking up front, and we've heard so many good things about what his upside potential is, and that he was going to be more of a long-term project when he came to South Carolina from SC State. And I just wonder, I can't guarantee this, but I just wonder if Kendall Briles can do something different or special with him that can, I'm not saying he's going to be like your lead back, but to make him more of a featured part of the offense this upcoming year in, again, a running back room that we think is pretty wide open right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the running back room is definitely wide open right now. I mean, we'll see what happens with who emerges. Much like the discussion we just had about kicker a moment ago, Tyler, I feel running back is kind of the same situation to where, again, unless they just feel really confident, like I think they're going to have to be blown away by somebody at the start of the year, heading into the year after preseason camp to have a solidified RB1. I don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like you're going to be starting out the year kind of by committee, figuring out who the guy is. And again, it's always by committee anyway to some degree because you're always getting multiple guys into a game. But I still think it's going to take time to find that clear-cut running back. And maybe Howell is the guy that eventually does break through. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't to this point. I thought he would have been a guy that, I think it was 2 years ago, he kind of emerged a little bit, had some good games here and there. But, yeah, still just hasn't really broken through, and he's still stuck around with the program now for his third season here. Time goes by quick. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a guy that would definitely be a welcome addition to see if he can be the guy in that room. If you're putting odds on this thing, I don't think he's got the best odds, but
sure,
it would really be great to see him as someone that is a big guy to go in there and do some damage.
Well, and that, like I said, I maybe don't expect him to be RB1 at any point this year, but just be more of a featured part of the offense. We may never establish like an RB1 in the sense of what we had a couple years ago with Rocket Sanders, who was getting, 75, 80% of the carries at the running back spot. You may not actually end up with that this year. We think that could be Matthew Fuller or Christian Clark, but you might end up just with a solid rotation of running backs. And, hey, if they're all producing at a decent level and complementing what Lenore Sellers is doing in the run game, then that's great. We don't have to have somebody that goes out there and runs for 1,000 yards. If you tell me you get a couple running backs that run for, 500, 600 yards on the season, I'll take that in a heartbeat. And if they rotate through and keep guys fresh and keep guys healthy, I'm all for it. If that, I don't know if that's how it's going to end up, but we'll wait and see. But I'm interested to see if Howell might be somebody that Kendall Briles kind of takes a look at and says, okay, let me see if I can use this guy differently and get more out of him than maybe what you had last year.
Absolutely. You hope that's the case across the board this season, is that, yes, we expect the offense to be better than what last year was, but at the same time, can the players see drastic improvement across the board, right? And you would think that would go hand in hand with an offense that would score a lot more this season.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. Again, 67 days away from kickoff, and we'll see who ends up being a breakout candidate on offense this year with a new set of eyes and offensive coordinator Kendall Briles. We'll switch gears to baseball coming up next as Kevin Schnall continues to add out of the transfer portal, and another familiar name decides to return to South Carolina as well. We'll tell you about that coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday here in the game. All right, welcome back in. Extra point. Tyler Head along with you. Jack Veltry had to step out to handle some Gamecock Central stuff. We'll get back on coming up here in a few minutes, but we'll talk some Gamecock baseball now. And right before we do, another reminder, as you just heard there on the rejoin, that tomorrow morning from 9 until noon, we're going to be out at Gamecock Traditions on Sunset Boulevard in Lexington, hanging out all morning long as you can come in and get your first chance to purchase some South Carolina Nike apparel as the new era begins coming up tomorrow. Again, we'll be out there from 9 until noon, then Jay Phillips will be out there from 3 until 6, as well as we, again, usher in the Nike era for Gamecock Athletics, and hopefully I can grab a thing or two while I'm out there as well. But looking forward to seeing all you guys out there. Appreciate Gamecock Traditions for allowing us to be a part of what's probably going to be a pretty busy day for them coming up tomorrow. So looking forward to that. You can also buy yourself, I'm sure, maybe a Gamecock baseball T-shirt or something along those lines. I don't know if jerseys are going to be out yet or not, but maybe at least like a Gamecock baseball T-shirt to prepare yourself for the Kevin Schnall era starting in February of 2027. Of course, we're a couple weeks into Schnall officially being the head coach here at South Carolina. And my goodness, has he been hard at work in the transfer portal, which we knew, considering the sheer amount of players that opted to leave in the transfer portal once the season ended, which I get. You didn't have a coach, and I don't know how many of those guys would have been retained anyway. If had they stuck around when Schnall was ultimately hired. But there's a lot of spots to fill, and they've been doing that at a high clip pretty much every single day. And from when we got off with Jack yesterday to now, 4 more commits coming in for South Carolina. 3 kind of, sort of, and then 1 that's a little bit of a different situation that we'll talk about here in a second. But you bring in Andrew Koshy from Maryland, right-handed pitcher that had some starts for Maryland this past year. You bring in a reliever and Ethan Sutton from South Florida as Carolina continues to just bolster its pitching staff, especially with right-handed talent. It looks like it's a heavy right-handed group in that in the pitching room right now compared to the left-handers. We'll see if those numbers end up catching up. And then Bristol Carter also coming in from the transfer portal from Auburn as an outfielder to add to that group out there that is just about full at this point in time. And you look at a guy like Bristol Carter putting up solid numbers this past year in 49 games at Auburn, a very good Auburn team that, of course, ends up making it in to the postseason, ends up hitting just shy of 300, hitting 298. Not a power guy, only 2 home runs on the year, a 384 slugging percentage. Let's see, got on base at a clip of 428. So this is a guy that's really good when it comes to making contact and getting on base, which is a good thing to have in your lineup. Spent 2 years at Auburn, was at East Carolina for 1 year as well prior to going out there on the Plains. So again, lot of goods, a lot of positives from these guys that you're seeing coming in from the transfer portal. And we also learned yesterday as well, had somebody else, this being the 4th guy that I talked about, being technically a portal commit, but not really. Brandon Stone has decided to withdraw his name from the transfer portal and return to South Carolina. Of course, he's been here for the past couple of years after coming in from, I forget, one of the community colleges out there in the Midwest. And, like so many other guys, as I mentioned, he decided he was going to try his hand at the transfer portal when South Carolina, or when the season came to an end. They moved on from minor league and all that kind of stuff. And well, now, as we talk about, here's your option. You can take your name out of the transfer portal, and Brandon Stone has decided to do that. Now, I know when you look at Brandon Stone's numbers, especially at the end of this past year, they weren't great. And he struggled quite a bit in his last handful of outings. And look, he's a guy that rotated between, coming out of the bullpen and starting and all that kind of stuff. But he's an example of a guy that, for one, you appreciate his attitude and his willingness to do whatever's asked of him. Hey, we need you to start. Hey, we need you to come into relief. Whatever it may be, Brandon Stone was good with it and did a lot of that back and forth in his 2 years so far here at South Carolina. So that's somebody that I can appreciate having on a roster because I know he's going to be willing to do whatever he needs to help out the team, right? Whatever role that, they're going to ask him to play, he's going to be down for it. And again, he comes in here after pitching in community college and he's only worked with Terry Rooney these past 2 years, right? Johnson City Community College, by the way. I knew it was one of those out there in the Midwest. So only 2 years here at Carolina, both of those working with Terry Rooney. He's one of those guys that I'm so intrigued to see how a guy like Matt Williams can maybe mold him a little bit more. Again, Matt Williams did a phenomenal job with the Coastal pitching staff these past couple seasons. What can he do with a guy like Brandon Stone that, again, we know is willing to do whatever he needs to do to help this team out, play whatever role that this coaching staff's going to ask him to play. And look, I'm not going to set the expectations sky high necessarily, but I'm intrigued to see what, if any, kind of improvements they can make with him for, again, whatever role they're going to decide to ask him to play when the season does come up. But there is, again, something that we knew was going to happen to some degree. Didn't know at what kind of clip. You have a guy in Brandon Stone deciding to pull his name out of the transfer portal. Again, Jack's handling some Gamecock Central stuff, so I don't have the exact number right now. We can ask him coming up in a minute about where Carolina stands in terms of number of players they can continue to add, because we're starting to creep up on that total number here, again, with 4 more additions coming out of the transfer portal yesterday, one of those being Stone, but still, he was a guy that you were counting as not being on your team anymore. Now he's filled one of those roles, so we're getting into the high 20s now, I would imagine, in terms of total spots filled on this roster here at South Carolina, and a lot of guys to be optimistic about. Now, look, like anything with the transfer portal, not all these guys are going to come in and play a major role. And some of these guys, coming in from, the G5 ranks, like, talking about Ethan Sutton with South Florida and Max Bianchi coming in from USC Upstate, we'll see if their skill set and abilities translate up to the SEC. That's always something you have to look at. We feel pretty good about the Coastal guys, considering the fact they've just played high-level baseball a lot in their couple years in college so far, coming over with Kevin Schnall. And I don't know, it's one of those things that everything is sunshine and rainbows right now, right? Like, everything's positive. Everything's got a positive outlook to it because this was the hire that everybody, or most everybody, wanted to have made, right? Like, Schnall was a name that as soon as they moved on from, Paul Maneri, he was at the top of a lot of people's list, including mine, and rightfully so. So Carolina makes the hire. He brings in a ton of what we believe is really good talent from Coastal Carolina that should hopefully translate over well to playing here at South Carolina. And really, it's kind of one of those things, like, until proven otherwise, I think this is going to be nothing but positives, right? As we go through fall practice and all that kind of stuff, continue to bring guys in from the transfer portal to run out the roster. It's all positive. It's all looking up and those kind of things until we have a reason to believe otherwise, which hopefully we don't. Hopefully, Schnall hits the ground running. His team's successful, beating the likes of Clemson and doing really good in SEC play next year. We never have to doubt it. But it is such an interesting dynamic when you look at, how things are viewed with the mass portal, with the mass roster overhaul from the portal on the baseball side of things compared to, like, basketball. Because, again, basketball, or men's basketball specifically, is coming off of 2 awful seasons, right? So even if there are, some guys to be excited about with what Lamont Paris has brought in, it's kind of one of those, well, until I see it with my own eyes on the field, or on the court, I'm not going to believe it. And again, that comes with the territory of having bad seasons where, Schnall's coming in with a great reputation, a great resume, and we believe he's going to come in here and be successful and bring South Carolina back to those places they want to be, which includes Omaha and all that kind of stuff, playing deep into the postseason. But yeah, some more additions to from the transfer portal for South Carolina. Baseball, would I be shocked if there's 3 or 4 more that commit today? Absolutely not, because, again, that's kind of the clip that Kevin Schnall's been operating on, and exciting to see. And, again, can't wait to see these guys in Gamecock uniforms coming up at the end of February in 2027. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1. Oh, man, it has been an exciting round of 32 in the World Cup so far. We'll give you the latest on that and look ahead to America's knockout game coming up tomorrow night as we continue on with the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you. Jack Veltri back in a moment as your Tuesday rolls along here in the game. All right, welcome back in. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Tuesday on the Game. Jack, in that last segment, I just ran through the latest additions in the transfer portal for South Carolina. Of course, one of those including Brandon Stone taking his name out of the portal. But regardless, 4 more spots filled on the roster yesterday that were open when we were doing the show. Do we know what the exact number of spots filled is at this point and how many more we have left?
Ooh, let's see. I don't know the number off the top of my head. It
got to be getting close to the high 20s, right?
Oh, it's already been in the mid 20s. So it was 25 on what day did I write that story? It was over the weekend. So they've had a lot more additions since then. It's at least up to 29 now, I think.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but it's either 29 or 30. So we're talking about, give or take, about 5 or 6 more spots to fill potentially. So this roster is almost complete. I think it did come a little bit as a surprise that Stone is back at South Carolina. I was also a little bit surprised that he hadn't committed anywhere else yet, which I guess leads to why he's back here. But he's an underrated arm, man. I like him. He does not throw overly. He doesn't have like the most overpowering stuff. He got up to like 94 times last year, I think. But that's a guy that typically sits low 90s. He relies a lot on that off-speed stuff. I mean, he pitches to contact. He's definitely a nice arm to have on this staff. And the good thing about him is, yes, he was a weekend starter last season, but he was also a guy that, like, the year before that, he was, like, one of your better long relief arms. So the fact that he's got so much versatility to him in what could be a very crowded pitching staff for him next year, it's good to see that you have a guy that can do literally just about anything that's needed.
Yeah, and that's what I said a moment ago when you were on your phone call there, that I'm interested to see what a guy like Matt Williams can do with him because, 1, he's willing to do anything that's asked of him, clearly, and 2, we've only seen him in the Terry Rooney era here at South Carolina. We believe Matt Williams is a better pitching coach than Terry Rooney, so what can he do with a guy like that has the experience and, again, is willing to do anything that you ask of him here at South Carolina? I'm intrigued to see.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be very exciting to see Stone back and what he can do, but yeah, yesterday was a busy day. I think I wrote like 6 stories yesterday on all the guys that committed, made moves, etc. I mean, it was a busy day, but 3 commitments. I just got off the phone talking to one of them, Bristol Carter. So he's the guy from Auburn, very speedy outfielder. Looking forward to seeing what this staff does, man. I mean, they're putting together a pretty good roster from the looks of it.
Yep, a lot of reasons to be excited about that. Speaking of busy day yesterday, by the way, very busy day in the World Cup, especially when it came to upsets, including this one.
Been in this position for Paraguay. But he scores! Paraguay have done it! Paraguay have won it! And they booted Germany out of the World Cup!
So Paraguay beats Germany on penalty kicks yesterday to eliminate the Germans, who, of course, won back in 2014, are always kind of in the mix as one of those last couple teams standing. So maybe one of our first big shocks of the tournament so far, with Germany getting sent home packing well before anybody thought they would.
So, again, I'm unfamiliar with how big of an upset that is, so I just looked it up. So Paraguay's 4-3 penalty shootout victory over Germany was a massive, historic shock. It was the 4th biggest knockout stage upset in World Cup history based on the FIFA rankings, which, I mean, yeah, I can see why. So Paraguay was ranked 41st, and Germany's ranked 10th. So that's a huge upset right there. But hey, I like it. I like seeing upsets in this. It kind of feels like March Madness to some degree with the upset here, and yeah, it's a big one, man. That's massive.
And really, all 3 games yesterday were great. Brazil ends up scoring in the 5th minute of stoppage time yesterday to beat beat Japan 2-1. Again, Paraguay beats Germany in penalty kicks, and then Morocco beats Netherlands late last night. This game went all the way almost to midnight because they played all the extra time. So they played basically 2 full hours and then went to penalty kicks. Morocco advances 3-2 on that one. So it was a pretty darn exciting day as the first full day of the round of 32. I know you had the Canada win over South Africa on Sunday, but that was only one game that day. We're really kind of getting into it as these next couple days go by. And my goodness, yesterday I think delivered on the excitement in just about every single game.
Yeah, very cool so far. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what the U.S. does tomorrow. And that should be really cool. I mean, we'll see what happens with the United States. They look to continue to try and do some good things here.
Now, are you a believer in the transitive property?
Depends on the situation.
I'm just saying. Now, again, Germany was one of the teams that was looked at as one of the favorites to win this entire thing. Paraguay beats them yesterday. The United States beat Paraguay 4-1 in group play a couple weeks ago.
This is true.
So I'm just saying,
Group
you want
plays
to use the transitive property.
Group plays a little bit different, and also the United States is coming off a loss. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see. They got to win this game here first. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and again, I'm not. I don't have a soccer team that I root for, so it's not something that gets sucked into a whole lot. But the World Cup, and the coolest part is seeing the natives of these countries, if they're in the stadium or, in their home countries watching this in the streets at parades and stuff like that, seeing them react and seeing how big of a deal it is. We here in America, it's a big deal to us, but it pales in comparison to what these other countries that view this as their biggest and most important sport and how celebrated these victories are. And that's always really cool to see, especially for when you have upsets like Paraguay or, Morocco winning their game late last night and seeing how those people react to that.
Yeah. Now, before we get on out of here for the first hour, did you see the Mets debacle yesterday?
Oh, yes, I did.
That was so bad.
Your prediction of the Mets maybe turning a leaf after filing Carlos Mendoza, it hasn't happened yet.
Nope. It's not going to happen, I don't think.
Juan Soto ends up overrunning a ball. It ended up going in as a triple. They're playing the Blue Jays. It ended up going in as a triple with an error that scored the run, but it was effectively a Little League home run that they allowed in the bottom of the first inning yesterday.
Yeah, so that was bad. I can't talk, though. The Yankees looked awful yesterday.
Hey,
so
neither one of our teams are doing too great right now.
No.
So
Braves lose yesterday?
they didn't play yesterday, so they did not lose.
They didn't lose. They didn't win.
They didn't lose yesterday. They might lose tonight to the Cardinals.
Oh, man.
Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing up next on your Tuesday here on the game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. It's our head, Jack Feltry, and Chris Clark along with you here on your Tuesday. It just occurred to me in the break, this week is a birthday sandwich. The beginning of the week, you have Chris Clark's birthday on Sunday. Happy belated birthday. Well, I told you about happy birthday on Friday.
Wait.
It's not a belated
Your birthday was what
I already
day?
told you.
Sunday.
It wasn't posted anywhere on Gamecock Central to say happy birthday?
I don't know.
I didn't see it anywhere.
I took a little time away. Like, I haven't been on the site as much, so I don't know if they put up a
I didn't
banner
see
or anything.
anything. Dang. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, your birthday was Sunday.
Yep.
Jack's is at the end of the week on Saturday. So I
Happy early birthday, Jack.
Yes.
This is the birthday sandwich week for you two
Yeah,
guys.
I guess it is. We just need somebody in between. So
Were you 21, Jack?
21. Now I'm like 40.
Chris
I
actually
did
is
turn 40. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Jack was making an old joke, and then he's like, "Oh,
like,
whoops."
Yeah, 40, just old men over here.
I'm turning 26. So
Well,
nice.
I complimented Chris the other day.
Good
he
age.
doesn't look 40.
he does not look 40.
If you asked me to guess his age, I wouldn't guess
I
40.
feel 40.
Well, I can't see how you feel.
Like whatever I imagine. Like, people would always tell you, like, okay, once you turn 30, your body starts breaking a little bit. 100% true.
Yeah, okay.
And they're like, wait till
That's
you
what I
get
have
40.
That's what I have to look forward to over the next 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. Y'all got some good years until you get 30's not like 40. I feel a little older now, but
Okay.
thank you for your kind words.
Anything
That does make me feel
anything fun for the birthday?
Went down to Charleston, hung
Nice.
out. It was fun. Yeah, it was good.
I'm actually going to Charleston this week. So
There you go.
there you go.
Charleston sandwich.
Yeah, the Charleston birthday sandwich.
Now, are you guys doing the same things in Charleston? Because there's a lot of things to do in Charleston.
Yeah, we're primarily going to the beach, so we'll be out there.
No beach for me. I was on the boat having
Okay.
fun. So yeah,
Well, still, it's water related.
it's
that
water.
wor-
It
that
is
works.
water related.
So there you go.
Went by saw Fort Sullivan,
Nice.
which was big battle during the Revolution. That was actually, that battle took place on my birthday.
Oh,
in
okay.
June 28, 1770s. Yeah,
So you're there memorializing it.
unbeknownst to me, but I thought, there it is.
Oh,
We
you
passed
didn't, you
by.
didn't know about that prior
Well,
to
I just
going.
didn't know we were going to pass it. No, there
Oh,
it
I
is.
see. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah, a lot of Civil War history out there. Very good museums out in Charleston as well.
Yep.
That's what I enjoy doing out there. But regardless, happy birthday to Chris. He turned 40 on Sunday, and then happy early birthday to Jack because he's gonna be out the rest of the week.
Thank you.
So you'll
Appreciate
turn
it.
26 on Saturday,
26.
as well as America turning 250 years old.
Yeah, so I'm what's the age difference between me and America?
Well, you're a tenth of America's age. Well, a little more than a tenth of America's age. So yeah, there you go.
Crazy.
Very cool. Very cool. We've been doing our opponent previews for South Carolina, making our way through the back half of the schedule now. Yesterday we talked about Tennessee, which of course is the first game after the bye week, and then after that you get a very tricky road trip to Oklahoma. Now, funny enough, the last time South Carolina went to Oklahoma 2 years ago, maybe the most dominant game of the Beamer era, where you blinked and you're up 3 touchdowns thanks to some god-awful offensive play by Oklahoma and some really good defensive play by South Carolina. Don't think this trip's going to be quite as easy. Just going to throw that out there.
yeah, that was. I mean, that game. I was at that game, and South Carolina was sitting there, kind of disappointed, right, with how things had played out in the early part of that season. Of course, that team ended up narrowly missing the playoff, but they're sitting there. You had the squeaker against Old Dominion. You beat Kentucky on the road with a kind of similar, like, really strong defensive performance. You had the LSU game. You had the Ole Miss debacle at home. You had the narrow loss to Alabama. And so you're sitting there at 3-3, and it's kind of a close but no cigar type feel. And then you come out in that game, and, man, just immediately, just right off the bat, it was everybody in that stadium, whether it was like shell-shocked. For Oklahoma, the fans could not. We were like literally just planted in an Oklahoma section. They couldn't believe it. The Gamecock folks that were around couldn't believe it either, because it was a blink and you're up 3 touchdowns. And from there, the game never maybe some Gamecock fans never felt fully comfortable because they still didn't do a lot offensively. You know, they did enough. But yeah, the defense was just that kind of showed how talented that defense was. They made a lot of big plays, took advantage of a lot of big plays. But yeah, Oklahoma, you know, they kind of got their revenge last year at Williams-Brice Stadium. They always have been, and I think always will be, a really strong defensive club under Brent Venables. They were good defensively that year in 2024. They were certainly very good last year. South Carolina couldn't get anything going. That was a common theme for them, of course, the entire year, but especially in that game. And so for Oklahoma, you know, John Mateer's back, had the surgery in the offseason. There's a lot of weird videos going on right now, videos and photos of quarterbacks. Have y'all noticed this trend on social?
Yeah, a lot of them, like the Manning Passing Academy, has been going on, I think, this past week. So I guess a lot of those guys out there.
It's look at this throw, and then fans who are, you know, fans of rival schools go on, oh, well, he's throwing against air. There's a bunch of silly arguments. Our guy's better than your guy, but you know, Mateer's back. Certainly for Oklahoma to take the next step, they're going to have to take the next step offensively. And for South Carolina, it's getting back to more of that 2024 form, as we've all discussed. But this is, I think, it's one of those games for both of these teams that you kind of circle as being really important, right? It's one of those swing, and for South Carolina, there's several of them, one of those kind of swing conference games that to have the type of season that you ultimately want to have, you're going to need to not necessarily get that one, but it's an opportunity, you know, to put this thing over the top.
Yeah. No, I mean, Mateer, I think he's at the, the Manning Passing Academy camp. I mean, he's looking, he might be like the most jacked quarterback in college football right now. Like, I mean, the guy's got like forearms that are just massive. But anyway, I mean, look, he's a guy that stays healthy. He's right in contention for the Heisman Trophy last year. Like, that was the expectation, and he gets hurt. He's out for a little bit with that hand injury. And then he comes back for South Carolina, and you know, I don't think he was really the same quarterback the rest of the year. But look, here's the way I look at it. Oklahoma still made the college football playoff, hosted a home playoff game, even without Mateer being what he was supposed to be coming into the year. So now that he's going to be healthy, that Oklahoma defense, you can always count on those guys to be very good under Venables. Another year with Ben Arbuckle as the OC. As long as everyone stays healthy and they take the next step forward, like this could be another good year for Oklahoma potentially, but time will tell.
Yeah, you mentioned him being at the Manning Passing Academy. There's videos out there of his throwing motion, which looks a little bit different now. Wilson Alexander, Vaughn 3, had a pretty good write-up about that yesterday about, you know, kind of the process he went through last year with that thumb injury. Remember, he came back pretty quickly. He wanted to play against Texas, which was the game right before they played South Carolina. Probably came back quicker than he should and wasn't the same down the stretch of the season. As you mentioned, they still made the college football playoff, but that was more on the strength of the defense. Offensively, they just kind of weren't the same after that thumb injury. So Mateer is obviously recovering, or has recovered, working on his different throwing motion. And also, one thing Oklahoma did a lot this offseason was help him out in the transfer portal. Got a couple of offensive linemen to shore things up there. Got him some new guys to throw the ball to, and Trell Harris from Virginia and Parker Livingstone, who was one of Arch Manning's favorite targets at Texas a season ago. So they're doing a lot to shore up this offense because, again, we've seen Mateer at his best at the beginning of last year, and he's somebody that is capable of being one of those Heisman Trophy-esque quarterbacks if he gets back to playing to that form again. We'll obviously see if he's back to 100% when the season gets here, but you assuming he doesn't get hurt again, he'll be playing some of his best football by that later point in the season.
Oklahoma's got the all-name team in the tight end room, too. Hayden Hansen, sounds like a tight end. Rocky Beers.
Oh, yep.
Jack Van Dorselaar. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it does not.
So, you know, and again, they're always going to be good on defense, and they're losing some guys, but they also have a lot of really good players back. David Stone, Peyton Bowen in the secondary, Cortland Guillory. Got a lot of really good players. And, you know, when Brent Venables is running a defense, you're generally, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're going to feel pretty good about it. If you're lining up against his defense, you're going to feel a little skittish. You know, points you feel like are going to be at a premium. And so Yeah, it's very, they do have some new guys coming onto the offensive side of the ball, as you said, Tyler. Mateer, I think, is the key to that thing. I was looking at, he made an interesting analogy in trying to throw the football last year with that hand or thumb injury that he had, and he said it was like trying to throw a baseball with, without having a couple fingers on it. Like that's tough.
Yeah.
Tough to control. It really impacts your velocity, obviously your accuracy, and you could see that. You could see that throughout the course of the year. If you watched an Oklahoma game, they would talk about it a lot on the broadcast. Undoubtedly had an effect on him, and like you said, Jack, they still were a team that was dangerous last season. So, and it was a team that I remember when we talked to Phil Steele and some others going into last year. They were pretty bullish on Oklahoma's ability to take the next step. They did, but they're looking to take another one. They have higher aspirations and just let's make the playoff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, they should feel good about this team heading into this year. Venables, I feel like the monkey's kind of off his back now. The hot seat talk after having a really good year last year. You get Mateer back. You hope he's going to be in the best shape of his life. Looks like it for sure. Stays healthy, does his thing. Like, Arbuckle's a good OC. They have some good pieces. Like, they should feel good about this group. I don't know about national championship contention. I don't know if that's going to be realistic because I think it's a crowded SEC and obviously there's a lot of good teams in college football. So it's hard to forecast that. But as far as getting back to the playoff and doing something more this year, I feel like that should definitely be on the table for this team.
Now, one thing that Brent Venables does have to do is buck a trend, and I always like to see patterns when it comes to head coaches and records, and we talk about, Beamer and obviously the success that he has on even years. Brent Venables is the opposite. He's going into year number 5 at Oklahoma, this being 2026. It's an even year. His prior 2 even years in 2022 and 2024, exactly 6 and 7. The 2 odd number years in 23 and 25, exactly 10 and 3. So the trends tell you this is the year they take the step back. As you mentioned, he got himself off the hot seat last year by getting the team into the college football playoff. So I don't think he's in danger of losing his job, but he does have to buck the trend of him being a 6 and 7 coach in even years.
And Shane Beamer looking to buck a trend of, in odd number years has not done as well from a record standpoint. Even number years has done well. You look at, in year 1, I think all things considered, 2021, like 7 and 6 is not a.
Oh, it was way better than people thought it was going to be.
Way better. They'd won 2 games the year before. COVID shortened year with the schedule, obviously, but they won 2 games, and the expectations weren't high. You made a bowl game. You went and won a bowl game, went 7 and 6. But 2022, you're 8 and 5. Have a disappointing season the year after. 2024, the team we were talking about to open things up. You're 9 and 4, and obviously had a very disappointing campaign last year. So, can you get back to that? That's the first step, and then from there, if you're South Carolina, you want to build consistency. But it all obviously starts here in 2026.
Yep.
Getting off to a good start and trying to put yourself back into contention.
Again, we're previewing opponents each and every day. We'll take a look at Texas A&M coming up tomorrow, where we'll be out at Gamecock Traditions from 9 until noon for the Nike launch of USC apparel. So come by and hang out with us, and we'll talk some Gamecock football as well. But coming up next, as we celebrate the 250th birthday of America later on this week, let's look back on some of the greatest moments in American sports history. It's coming up next. Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game.
10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome back in. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, and Jack Veltri on your Tuesday here on the game as we wrap up the month of June and turn the calendar to July tomorrow. We are days away from America celebrating its 250th birthday. Obviously, a lot of cool stuff going to be going on around the country this upcoming weekend, but we've gotten to see so many incredible sports moments in American history, and Jack wanted to dive into some of these today. Now, I played the Miracle on Ice there, which I think we can all agree is probably the single greatest moment in American sports history. Don't have to think about this from the perspective of like national teams like hockey, soccer, and stuff like that. It can be any sport, anytime, any year, but I think we would all agree that's probably going to be number one on just about everybody's list, correct?
I would agree. That's the first. I have a list here of different moments. I mean, that's the first one I wrote down. I mean, that just... There's a lot, man. There's a lot. But, like, as far as, like, American sports, and, again, like you said, doesn't have to necessarily be a national USA team, but that is the iconic United States national team moment. And the fact that it happened at the 80 Olympics, I mean, just at Lake Placid, just an unforgettable moment that, you know, still gets talked about 46 years later.
Fun fact, on tape delay.
Yes.
That game was not seen live.
On tape delay. That's crazy.
Imagine that. Imagine
couldn't do that now.
Imagine if the U.S. hockey team this year, we couldn't see that game live and had to watch it 5 hours later.
Yeah, instead you get to watch it at Sunday at like 10 a.m. in the morning. That was different for sure.
All right, Jack, you have your list. What are some of the things that stand out to you as the greatest American sports moments?
I'll just run through it, and we can kind of just talk about it, I guess, on whatever way you want to go. So, Miracle, the U.S. beats Canada this year in the gold medal game. George Bush's first pitch at Yankee Stadium at the World Series after 9/11. That's
a good one.
That's an underrated one, I would say. I was only one at the time, so that was a difficult time for America.
Sure.
And he didn't bounce it. That was the main thing. Tiger, Return to Glory 2019, the kick six, Cubs win the World Series. This one pains me to say, but the Red Sox come back from 3-0 and end the curse of the Great Bambino. The Cavs come back from 3-1 to beat the 73-win Warriors in the finals in 2016. Tyler, the 28-3 comeback with the Falcons and the Patriots at the Super Bowl.
Figured that was coming.
Villanova buzzer beater in the 2016 title game. MJ flu game, and then Kobe 60 in his last game.
Okay.
Man, those are good ones.
I think you kind of hit on the spectrum there. You did a little bit of everything.
Oh, yeah. And there's even more. I mean, there's a ton of American sports moments over the last, 100+ years that you could really dive into.
Well, and that's the funny thing. Again, we're talking about this in America's entire history, but like really, American sports history goes back to about roughly like the late 1800s. Typically, when we talk about like organized sports that we recognize today, they were still playing sports and stuff like that in the years before, but nothing I think that would be recognized, at least in today's world, as like greatest sports moments of all time.
So
let me add in. So those are great.
A lot of good ones.
I'll add in a few more. I have two Michael Jordan related ones.
Okay.
The first one is when he sent out the statement from his
the facts
from his agency. He faxed it out.
Yeah.
I'm back. Like, can you imagine that? Nowadays, he would just like put it on Instagram
or tweet it
or tweet it.
And how many retweets would that get now?
Oh, I mean, that'd be like probably one of the most retweeted posts ever.
All of the retweets.
Well, here's the thing: would that have been broken by
that's a good point.
Like Shams or like whoa?
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah, the Shams tweet would get more because he breaks it the night before or whatever.
Yeah, that's the problem there.
The 1998 MJ over Brian Russell shot with 5 seconds left to go up and win the 6th NBA championship. That's an iconic moment.
Great one.
The Last Dance.
Here's another one. So, and this is, I wasn't sure when we were saying we were going to talk about this. I figured U.S. sports moments can just literally be, pro teams in America, et cetera.
Yes.
But I was trying to think of some, what are some, U.S. national team related things? So, Brittany Chastain's kick to win the World Cup, the penalty. That was a big one. And one that I love, and I will dig up this clip multiple times a year, was the Jason Lezak comeback in the 2008 Beijing Olympics in the 4x1 freestyle relay.
Yeah.
The French were the best team coming in. You know, they were talking trash. We're going to smash the Americans. Phelps was on that team.
Yep.
But they were behind going into the anchor leg, and their best swimmer, Elaine Bernard, was up. And so Lezak was, I don't know, half a body length behind. Actually lost ground when he first got into the pool, but then came back. You know, the whole time, even about halfway through it, you know, the announcers, which were incredible. I think that was Roddy Jones, right? You know, you're sitting there going, all right, U.S. trying to hang on for silver, and then all of a sudden here comes Lezak, and he broke not only the Olympic record, but the world. Multiple teams broke the Olympic record. Even if you're in like sixth, you know, you're watching the world record line. It's absolutely shattered. And he swam a split that stood for years, you know, and 46.06. It was an incredible race, incredible moment. We were watching that one live. So, you know, in that one, like the 80 Olympic win in hockey was even more, you know, it was in a sport that I think more people watch.
Sure.
You know, one. And it was even more unbelievable because of the team you were going against.
Right.
You know, it was just an absolute juggernaut. But I wasn't around then. You know, I didn't get to watch the tape delay.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it. I appreciate it and try to put it in its proper context. And I know for some people, swimming, you know, it's kind of a, oh, that's nice. But I thought that was an awesome moment. So that's one that always sticks out for me.
A lot of the things you guys have thrown out there, I got on my list too. Here's a couple that I want to add. How about Tigers chip in on 16th at the Masters in 2005?
Oh, yeah.
The iconic ball holding, Nike logo out. You couldn't have scripted it any better, and then the crowd erupts. That's a clip that I go back and watch periodically just for the vibes of it and how cool it was. Hank Aaron breaking the home run record of Babe Ruth.
The home run record.
The home run. Yes, we do not recognize Barry Bonds. He is the home run king, and always will be. Olympics. How about Carrie Strug getting the gold medal for America back in 1996, basically on one leg? She prevented the Russians from winning the gold, if I remember correctly, and she had to be like carried off by her coach to the podium. You know, gutsy performance there. How about Stanford and Cal, the play with the band on the field?
Oh, man.
One of the I think Kick Six is the greatest college football play of all time. The band being on the field might be number 2.
I could see that. It's definitely top 5. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's up there.
It's a weird. You want to talk about weirdest plays? Yeah, that one's definitely number 1.
I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, do you remember Fox Sports Net back in the day before it, I don't know, became Bally or whatever it is? They used to have all those countdown shows of like the top 50 greatest sports moments or in college football, Major League Baseball, and all that kind of stuff. I saw the play with Stanford and Cal so many times, watching that same show over and over again. It's permanently like burned into my mind. So I'll always think of it as like a top 5 play in college football history.
Some good ones there. Yeah, I mean, there's so many.
Also, one more. How about he was Cassius Clay at the time, but Muhammad Ali beating Sonny Liston as he was kind of still a little bit of an unknown at that point in time, to become the greatest of all time when it comes to boxing?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's so many Muhammad Ali ones, like the Rumble of the Jungle. Like, there's just so many different moments from boxing that you could honestly put up.
Tyson Buster Douglas.
Yeah.
Undefeated, gets knocked out.
That's a good one there.
Yeah, 42-1 underdog.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one didn't even take place in the States, right? It was in, like, Japan,
It was in Tokyo.
Yeah, so that's... Wow, that's another.
But I count it.
Really
Yeah. No.
I count it too.
It's involving American athletes.
It's just ironic that it happened in a completely different country.
Yeah, for sure. So again, those are some of the best American sports moments. Let us know some of yours at 803-404-6100, the Firehouse Subs text line. We'll flip over to the worst moments coming up next as we continue on with the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game.
I have never seen this before in my life. Watch this. Vince Wilfork is going to throw Brandon Moore back into his quarterback. He's going to fumble the football. This is what Reggie White used to do to people, forklift them and just lift them off the ground.
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyree, Chris Clark, and Jack Veltri along with you here. We're celebrating America's 250th birthday later on this week. We talked about the greatest moments in American sports history a moment ago. Now let's get to some of the worst, and we'll get to some of your texts coming up at the end of the hour as well, because you guys have some really great submissions. I can't think of maybe a more embarrassing play in American sports history than Mark Sanchez's infamous butt fumble on Thanksgiving against the Patriots all those years ago. And look, he's done some pretty embarrassing things since then, including in the past year. He's never going to live that one down, though. That's an all-time awful, awful moment.
It's a bad one.
Do you think people in other countries know about the butt fumble? Like all the people coming in for the World Cup, are they like, this is the country that had the butt fumble?
We need somebody to do like the on-the-street interviews.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we're in Atlanta, and whatever countries are still there for the World Cup, we're going to ask 100 people, see how many of them know
Like,
about
did
the butt
Freddie
fumble.
from Germany?
Yeah, Freddie.
Just
By the way, he's going through it right now. Germany got eliminated yesterday. I saw he was posted up in his hotel with a bunch of Raisin Canes, eating his feelings.
I don't feel bad for Freddie. I think he's done just fine for himself.
He's enjoyed his trip. He's still got like 3 more weeks.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing is I know he's been getting the hookup with a lot of things, but
Sure.
what does this guy do for a living?
Well, that's
and how can I emulate it? Because he's
I we'll get to the worst moments in a moment. About. I'm glad you brought that up, because like people always talk about like European countries give people way more time off in a year than like in America, and I'm assuming that's what a lot of these people are doing, because this is a month-and-a-half thing, and some of these people are here the whole time. I'm like, what job allows you to just take off like 2 months?
he just sends an email and he's like, I'm heading to the World Cup.
Boss
See
is like,
y'all
me
in
too. See you there.
A month and a half or
Yeah.
2 or however long.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
I don't
boss
know.
is like, yeah, I'll be there too.
I was like,
let's meet up.
You know, most people here, you get like 2-3 weeks vacation tops, and kind of hard to work around that. But anyways, getting back to the worst moments, I think butt fumble is definitely up there as one of the all-time worst in like a funny way. There's more serious bad things that have happened, but like I feel like most people would look at butt fumble as probably towards the top of their list.
Absolutely. That one has got to be up there for sure. Just a few that come to mind. Jordan Spieth's collapse on the back nine at the Masters in 2016. He had a 5 excuse me, he had a 5-stroke lead. And then, you know, he had a quadruple bogey at one point. I mean, just all-time collapse there to win his 2nd straight Masters. Some other ones. How about Steve Bartman at the 2003 NLCS with the Cubs?
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that one has to be there. There's a lot of different games, I guess you could say, that should fit that sort of category. I mean, there's a lot of collapses. I think, like, I don't know. I mean, the 2011 wild card race in the MLB on both sides with the Braves blowing a 9.5 game wild card lead, and then the Red Sox had a huge wild card lead in September over the Rays, and then both those teams fell apart down the stretch, and the Cardinals and Rays won on the last day of the season to get in. So that was a wild game, 162 for sure.
Anything stand out to you, Chris?
I'm gonna give. Those are good ones. I'm gonna give a couple. I have one that I can't. I feel like I can't technically put it on, and I'll explain why. So let's say honorable mention: 2014 World Cup.
Okay.
USA's playing Belgium, and ends up going to overtime. US loses 2-1, but it was 0-0 at the end of the game. That's how regulation ended.
Yep.
And a ball got served into the box right to Chris Wondolowski, 7 feet in front of the goal. And he, you know, that's what he's a finisher. Like he scored a lot of goals at that time in MLS, and he put it over the bar. Like almost impossible to put it over the bar, but that's what happened.
Sure.
Just kind of hit it off the side of his foot. But it was revealed, and I don't know if this wasn't really talked about at the time from what I recall, but Jurgen Klinsmann, who was the U.S. head coach at the time, said later that the offside flag was actually up. And at that time, there was no VAR.
Okay.
So even if Wando put that one in the back of the net, it wouldn't have counted. They go to overtime. probably still lose
Sure.
because that's what happened in overtime. But that one was a gut punch at the time. I was watching that game live. Probably can't put it in there because the goal would not have counted. He probably still lose in overtime, but who knows? Here's one. Do y'all remember 2016 NCAA tournament? Northern Iowa was up. They were an 11 seed. They were up against Texas A&M by 12 with 44 seconds left.
Yes, I
and
do.
lost that game. A&M ended up going full court press, desperation mode, won the game in double overtime. I mean, go look that one up on YouTube. You're sitting there watching the game, and you're like, they're not going to win this game.
It's over.
Yeah, I mean, you're watching it not just at the beginning. You turn it on at the beginning, you're like, there's no way they win this game. And then you're watching it, and it seems like there's never enough time, but A&M ends up winning the game. There was even some back and forth even within that 44 seconds.
Yeah.
It was absolutely wild.
So the two I'm going to add to the list here, definitely on the more like serious side. One of them has to be Dale Earnhardt Sr. killed 2001 Daytona 500 last lap. Again, you see it on live TV. That's obviously a dark day in sports history in general. And then Nancy Kerrigan getting stabbed in the leg in 1994.
That's a bad
obviously orchestrated by Tanya Harding. There's a whole movie about it and everything like that. But two more like serious things that obviously live in infamy in American sports that are just two really, really dark days and dark situations.
Does the OJ car chase count?
Ooh.
It's not. It's sports adjacent.
It occurred during, was it the NBA Finals?
Yeah, they've got the little.
Yeah.
Is it because they put the finals in the little box, right?
Yeah, they got the box treatment.
I don't know. And see, that's a kind of relevant discussion right now because the Bills, they're moving stadiums. They're not moving OJ's, I guess, Hall of Fame, plaque over from the Bills Hall of Fame over from the old stadium to the new stadium. So I guess that's an interesting discussion to where do you separate the player from the guy he was outside of football or?
It's really hard to, especially with how profile that case was. And I know he was acquitted, but man, those facts are pretty, the evidence there is pretty.
The glove, man.
Damning in a lot of ways. Now again, we trust the U.S. court system, but man, that was a pretty decisive thing for America.
Tyler going full. We're endorsing the U.S. court system.
But
and I think you got to put on if we're going scandals.
Sure.
I mean, there's what happened with gymnastics.
Yeah,
very
the
nasty.
Black Sox scandals.
The Black Sox scandal. You've got remember Lance Armstrong doping scandal.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's some bad ones.
Penn State.
Oh God, yeah, the Penn State thing. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm taking us down too dark of a road
How
here.
about
some of these controversies?
How about the 86 World Series with the ball that goes through Bill Buckner's legs?
Yeah.
That's another one.
Well, the interesting thing about situations like that is it's heartbreaking for one side, but jubilant for the other.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all right, what do you find that balance of what is viewed as just bad by everybody?
Yeah.
The Bartman thing, the dude had to go into hiding, right?
And he I think the Cubs offered him a 2016 World Series ring when they finally won, but he declined.
Did he decline? I thought he accepted it.
Maybe actually, I think you're right. I think he did accept it. I think what he declined was being honored at Wrigley Field.
Okay.
I don't think he's come out of hiding since then, honestly. I honestly would love to see what that guy's doing now.
Yeah. I still think they put too much of the blame on him because the Cubs still had an opportunity to win that game. And they just
that was game
came
6,
unraveled.
by the way. They still had another game.
When they were up 3-0, the Bartman incident was huge, but it wasn't the exact reason why they lost. I don't know. I think they scapegoated him a little bit on that one.
Jim Joyce's blown call at first for Armando Galarraga robbed him of a perfect game.
Yep.
That was the worst and the best. No way, no recourse. Blows a perfect game. But then the best of sports, because the next day, Galarraga comes out, gives Jim Joyce the lineup card. Jim Joyce is crying. It was the best and the worst all in one.
Sure. A lot of you submitting stuff on the Firehouse Subs text line. We'll hit those as we wrap up the hour. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. It's our head, Chris Clark, Jack Vocher, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the game. Been talking the best and worst moments in American sports history for a lot of this hour. A lot of you weighing in on the Firehouse Subs text line at 803-404-6100. Want to hit a couple of those real quick before we wrap up the hour. I actually briefly considered this one. Nameless texter says, weirdest sports moment has to be Randy Johnson exploding the pigeon.
Yeah.
In terms of like I guess that would go for bad because an animal did die in the process of that play happening. But talk about 1 in a trillion odds. I think Sports Science did a breakdown on the likelihood of that happening, and it was so minuscule considering how large a ballpark is and where the bird and the ball would have to meet. And I don't think anything like that could ever be replicated again. And it just happened to be Randy Johnson, one of the most famous and aggressive pitchers of his generation, doing it. It was the perfect storm of everything happening at the right time.
I think you're right. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. I think it's one of the more impossible feats. That's a once in a lifetime type of sequence right there. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it happened at a spring training game. So it didn't even happen in a real official game, which, man, it's crazy to see that something like that has ever even happened.
Did we cover the helmet catch?
We did not.
That's
That could be one.
David Tyree.
Yeah.
That's a good one there.
Leicester City winning the Premier League title in 2016. Their odds, they had they had
Well, that's not American though.
Yeah. Not American. Okay. I was going master sports. Yeah. But enough Americans watch it. I would argue it's pseudo-American.
Somewhat. It's American adjacent.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we're really reaching.
Nameless texter weighs in with the Immaculate Reception. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Franco Harris. That's maybe still one of the most debated plays in sports history. Did the ball touch the ground? Did it not? And of course, there was no instant replay back then to overturn it. So you just kind of had to go with the call on the field.
Yeah, that was a good one there. What are some of the other texts saying out there?
Let's see here. Let's see. Donald weighs in, and he just kind of threw out Mia Hamm, Michael Phelps, and Steph Curry at the Olympics. So I guess you can pick and choose moments there. Obviously, Phelps when it comes to setting the gold medal record. Obviously, what Steph's done multiple times when it comes to Olympic basketball, and then Mia Hamm several times for Olympic women or U.S. women's soccer as well.
Yeah,
Deflategate.
Somebody actually went in with the Deflategate too, in terms of bad ones.
The Tuck rule.
Tuck rule, that was pretty iconic.
Yeah, that is pretty iconic.
That is that where the hate for Tom Brady began?
Probably.
I know you were too young, but I was too young to remember the fallout of that. But I feel like that, especially if you're a Raiders fan, that he got away with that one. And then it, just felt like for a lot of people, he was given a lot of breaks in the years after that as well, which in a lot of people's minds contributed to the Patriots going on the run that they did.
Yeah. I mean, you always got the sense that the Patriots were kind of playing by a slightly different set of rules.
Sure.
Probably some truth behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Did they win their first title yet at that point?
I think the Tuck rule was the year they won the first title. Actually. Okay. Let me double check.
So the hate probably hadn't reached its full boiling point yet, right? Kind of like when the Chiefs won their first title, and I think it was right before COVID. I don't remember the hate being as bad as it was when they missed the playoffs this year. Of everyone's rejoicing that they're finally done.
So the Tuck rule game was the divisional playoff in January of 2002, and that was before the Patriots won the Super Bowl a couple weeks later.
Because they won 3 straight, right? 2002, 2003, 2004, I want to say. I think it was 3 straight.
No, because 2003 would have been the Bucks.
Oh, you're right.
Then I think the Patriots went back to back in 2004 and 2005.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but more on the lines of that the Tyree catch. How about just the collapse for the Patriots to go undefeated that entire year and then losing the Super Bowl to? I mean, I don't even know what the spread was in that game, but I can imagine the Giants were probably a huge underdog in that game.
There's a really good video on YouTube. I'm sure it's still up there, but somebody wrote a song called Patriots 18-0 prior to that game that's talking about 18-0, one more to go, Super Bowl. I'm sure it's still up if you can find it, but it's really funny to listen to in hindsight, knowing what ended up happening in that game. If we're going to talk about that, greatest moments in American sports history, how about the 72 Dolphins?
Yeah.
Still the only team to never lose a game in modern NFL history.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of those guys are still around, but they still.
I think there's like 3 or 4.
The ones that are crack a cigar every time, the final undefeated team goes down every single year.
It's awesome. By the way, Patriots were favored by 2 touchdowns
in a Super Bowl. That's insane.
Against the Giants. I mean, that's again, that's like one of the greatest teams of all time right there.
Eli Manning was Tom Brady's kryptonite.
Yeah, twice.
Insane. Crazy stuff.
Crazy.
That'll do it for the Garnet Trust Hour, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Up next, Jack, enjoy your birthday. We'll see you next week.
All right, see you next week.
11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris back together again as we wrap up the month of June. Turn the calendar over to July tomorrow as we enter the second half of 2026. We asked Chris earlier about his birthday weekend. How was your couple days off, Wes? We rested, relaxed, and ready to go?
I mean, I feel like I need vacation from vacation, to be honest. Ready for the 4th of July to be here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, we're only here through Thursday. This week we'll be out tomorrow at Gamecock Traditions celebrating the Nike launch for South Carolina apparel. So looking forward to being out there tomorrow and talking about all that as we usher in a new era as we turn the calendar over to the month of July. Wes, you'll be happy to know that despite the fact that you were not here yesterday, you did actually close the gap on Chris in our trivia contest. Believe it or not.
How is that
I was told
possible?
about this last night.
Yes.
Yeah.
So since neither one of you were here yesterday, I did pose a trivia question to the audience. First person to answer it correctly would get to choose who would be awarded the point. And Wes, thankfully for you, the winner chose to give you the point to tighten up the gap a little bit.
Who was the winner?
Nameless texter did not give us a name.
No name.
No name.
Wow.
Didn't want the glory. Just wanted to give you the point.
Hey, nameless texter, whoever you are, wherever you are out there, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Would you like to know what the trivia question was?
Sure.
So yes.
Pity point.
What's that?
It's a pity point.
Well, hey, look,
I'll take it.
I
I would
opened it up to
absolutely-
him, so now
I will
Chris
take any kind of
only
point.
leads by 2.5 points. We're getting tight here. Yesterday was 68 days until kickoff. The question was, what was a feature of the 1968 uniforms that was not present on the 1968 uniforms that has been present every year since? Do we know?
What was not present on the 1960s has been
On the uniform, so not the helmet.
Well,
Does
the
the
helmet
are you
count as
counting
the
the helmet as the
uniform,
uniform? Okay.
Yes.
Well, you got to make
so is
sure.
it stripe?
Not stripe.
I don't know.
It's very obvious.
The Block C, Gamecock.
The Gamecock.
Okay.
1968 was the last year they went the entire season without a Gamecock on the helmet.
Oh, okay.
And that was those throwbacks they did a couple years ago in 22 and 23 were just the Block C. I don't know why they decided to throw back to 1968, but it was a different look. But, yeah, that was the last time you went a full season without the Gamecock on the helmet. So, nameless texter got it right and gave Wes the point.
Hey,
People would be so mad and before that if they were Twitter back then.
Oh, I'm sure.
Why do we not have a Gamecock? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, today's trivia question, 67 days until kickoff. Insert 6-7 meme here. Had to get a little bit creative with this one. So the question is, in the 2013 Outback Bowl, South Carolina opened up the game with a 3-play 67-yard drive, which was capped off by a 56-yard touchdown from Connor Shaw to who?
2013 Outback Bowl.
So the Clowney hit game.
okay. Well,
Michigan.
First of all, he didn't use your Ronald Patrick question.
I did not. I could not find a compelling enough trivia question for Ronald Patrick.
Okay. Second of all, can you repeat that question one more time?
I can repeat the question. I know that was a lot to throw at you. Again, I had to get creative with this one.
All right.
2013 Outback Bowl, January 1st, 2013, South Carolina, Michigan. Carolina opened up that game with a 3-play 67-yard drive that was capped off by a 56-yard touchdown pass from Connor Shaw to who?
I think I know. I don't want to say I do. I always lose. I think I know.
I've got 3 guys in
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Like,
Mentally lock in your answer. Can we both get a point if we get it? Like, does it have to be first one to say it?
we could write down the answer
Okay.
and flip it over.
Yeah, we can do that.
Don't have anything to write with.
All right. We'll wait for Chris to get some. Yeah,
I'm writing. I'm getting my.
you can. So Preston scribbles on the back of those envelopes there. If you just want to
This pen
scribble
doesn't
on one of
work.
those, or that big fat Sharpie.
The Sharpie's huge.
All
I'm
right.
writing mine.
Okay.
How confident are you in your answer?
I don't know. Let's see. 65%.
Okay.
You could have said 67%.
67%. Yes, missed opportunity. I've
All right.
written mine on a welcome Coach Schnall
Okay.
tradition
All right.
sticker.
All right. So you guys show your answers to the camera in 3, 2, and 1. What do we have?
I put Demir Bird.
I put Ace Sanders.
Well, let's see. What was the right answer?
Playmaker for the Gamecocks.
I want to let everybody know on the South Carolina side, number change, Demir Bird, who's been 3 all-year Gamecock fans, he's wearing 10 in the bowl game. Shaw climbing the pocket, taking a shot, downfield, breaking free. It's that man. It's Bird. It's touchdown, South Carolina, 56 yards.
Yes, indeed. Demir
Nice.
Bird. With
Don't
the,
call it a streak. Don't call it a streak.
apparently, after changing his number before this game, ends up scoring the opening touchdown. By the way, and we always give a lot of praise to Mike Tirico for his call of the hit later on in the game. How about him being on that one for talking about the number change and then him scoring the touchdown 2 seconds later?
There's that man.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Golly. Now, the thing that stinks about it, like Ace, I was thinking of the other play, like Ace had one of his classic touchdowns where he went, just went in, but I think made some defenders hit them, like run into each other. He had 2 touchdowns and 92 yards in that game, 9 catches. So I was thinking that was a good call. Wes on a heater now.
I know. It's down to 1.5. Chris, you're slacking.
Was that the bowl game that Connor Shaw caught the touchdown pass, or no?
That was in Nebraska, I think.
Yeah, no receiving stats for Connor Shaw in this one.
Yeah, he caught the touchdown against Nebraska. Don't believe me? Capital One Bowl.
Which Capital One bowl?
What was that? Is that not right?
Was it?
Nope, I'm wrong. Let's see.
He caught a touchdown pass. Wait, which game did we just hear? Which
2013 Outback Bowl. The hit-
against
the hit
Wisconsin.
game against
Wisconsin Capital One
Michigan.
Bowl.
Okay,
Mixed
yes.
up my white and red teams.
Yes, Wisconsin is when he caught the touchdown. So that game, we were at practice, right? And we had a certain portion of practice that I'm gonna go ahead and tell the story, even though it's not the game that we were just talking about.
That's fine.
We're out there for it was like a 30-minute. It was more than your typical like things are now, where you get just stretching and stuff like that. They're actually running some plays and stuff, and so they're running some plays. They ran the double pass or reverse pass, whatever it was, with the throwback to Connor, while the media was still there. And Spurrier's over there. He's like, beep. He comes walking over there. He's like, all right. He's like, pretend that play didn't happen. Cameras. He tells the TV guys, he's like, don't put that on your broadcast. And everybody was just like, oh, okay, all right. So sure enough, we're in the game, and I'm one of these people, especially back then, man. Like, I'm always looking at personnel. I'm always looking at who's on the field when. And before that play, I think they were coming out of a timeout or coming out of a dead ball or something. And I look out there, and it was not the normal trio of receivers because in Spurrier's offense, like, you had to really, if you were going to play every single receiver spot, like, there were differences between like the X and the Z and I think they called it the B in his offense. And I was like, this is not their base personnel. Something looks different. And then they aligned funky, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, this is the trick play. And then sure enough, snap the ball, trick play, throwback to Connor Shaw. And so there was a slight tell if you really, really knew South Carolina's film and personnel, but also nobody threw it on Twitter, nobody put it on the internet, just because Spurrier walked over and nicely asked, can y'all not do that? Got a touchdown out of it.
One of the few coaches that I think would have the cachet to just convince everybody to not leak that out.
Just walked over and asked.
Yeah, it's like, hey, don't put that out there. Okay, yes, sir.
They're like, I mean, that's fair. We're here. We're getting to watch.
It's so funny they ran it when the media was there, too. I feel like that would never happen now.
Well, they didn't mean to.
Right.
It's like,
But still, like, I feel like we got and not just here, across college football, we got a lot more access back then. We would watch whole practices,
Sure.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sit out there with a tailgate chair.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I think back, I remember hearing Jimmy Johnson tell the story about one of the years that the Cowboys played the Bills in one of those Super Bowls, and local media is out there doing their stories and stuff of practice, and there was some kind of play that they were running with Jim Kelly in the Bills practice that wasn't in their normal playbook that got put on the local TV broadcast that Jimmy Johnson saw and was like, hey, wait a minute, that looks different, and they ended up shutting that play down throughout the entire game, and the Bills couldn't figure out why for some reason. So I don't know if Spurrier knew about that story or whatever, but those kind of things can happen if that kind of stuff leaks out onto news or Twitter or whatever. All right, well, now we got some insight into something they're trying to do that's a little bit different. So when you mentioned that, that's what I thought of.
So, well, stories like yours are pretty much part of the reason why coaches are just wired to where they are, so just act like we're talking about national security, but there is a reason, I guess, that they act like that.
Yeah. And again, Spurrier's, I think, one of the few that could single-handedly get everybody to agree to that. He's like, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm not going to put that out there. We're just going to keep that under wraps. And when you saw the play developing, did you tell anybody what you think was about to happen, or did you keep that to yourself?
I can't. I think I kept it to myself because it happened so quick.
Yeah.
They were just lining up, and I may have elbowed the person beside me and been like, "This is the trick play," because I was like, man, my first thought was like, can I get off a tweet fast enough to where I called it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Or hey, this is a great time for a trick play, and then it happens. But no, I think I just probably elbowed the person beside me and was like, "Hey, I think this is the double pass or whatever it was."
Yeah.
So
Connor's going to get a receiving touchdown here. Watch.
that would have been pretty sweet.
Make yourself look like a genius. Okay, 67 days until kickoff, and Wes has closed the gap now to 1.5 points, and you guys have now answered 9.5 out of 17 possible questions correctly so far. So we're hitting our stride a little bit here as we get into the
Over 50%.
60s. Over 50%, doing pretty well. Bill and I had Dow Loggins on the halftime show the other day. He talked about a number of things, but one thing specifically he talked about was noticing Xavier Legette as soon as he got on campus, and it begged a question in my mind of who's somebody that Kendall Briles might look at in this offense that he thinks he can get more out of this upcoming season. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Southwest Chris with you on your Tuesday here on the game. The other day on the halftime show, myself and Bill Gunner had Dow Loggins on, of course, now the head coach at Appalachian State after spending a couple seasons here at South Carolina as the offensive coordinator. And we talked about a number of things, but one question I asked him was, you know, in part, what are all the things that Kendall Briles is doing this offseason as he comes in as a new offensive coordinator? And he ended up telling the story about when he came in back in 2022 and specifically noticing Xavier Legette right off the jump. And here's what he said.
Yeah, I had the advantage. I came in for the bowl game. They're getting ready to play Notre Dame. So I got to preview a little bit of the roster, and it's really where I saw Xavier Legette. And you go back, and I remember it was mid-December, and Legette walks in my office, and he's like, he's got that accent. He's like, "Oh, hey, Colt, man, I don't know if I need to transfer, Colt." And I'm like, "Nah, you don't need a transfer." I was like, "Just give us a chance." And there's two windows at that point. You're like, "Hey, if you don't like how we're going to use you in May, I'll help you myself find another home." But this guy that played 4 years and had 170 yards of production, I'm like, "Hey, just give us a chance. We have a vision for you." And the guy goes in the first round after having 1,200 yards. And so I had an advantage of watching bowl practice and kind of watching that guy, because if you just stats, I don't know if you would have seen, hey, how he practiced, how he moved. And so then you're trying to get a great feel for the coaching staff. Because I didn't get to bring anyone with me. The first year I brought 2 analysts and coming from Arkansas, and you get there, you're trying to get a feel for what they were, what we believed in. You're trying to sell your vision of the offense and trying to figure out what exactly Spencer Rattler is comfortable with. So the great thing for those guys there, for Kendall, is there's a lot of tape on a really, really good player, maybe the best player in college football at quarterback over there. And I'd probably argue the second best player in college football is the defensive end over there. So I think it's a great marriage. I think it's a great fit. I'm a big fan of Kendall. We obviously got to work together at Arkansas, and I think I'm excited for the quarterback as well.
So going back to the part that he said about Xavier Legette and coming in and the bowl practice for the Gator Bowl in December of 2022, and of course that translated to Legette having a phenomenal final year here at Carolina. That was assisted by the fact that Juice Wells got injured earlier on that year. That opened up more opportunities for the ball to go Legette's way. But regardless, Dow Loggins ended up featuring more in the offense than he had been in the prior 4 years. And, he's talked about on many other occasions, just kind of seeing him as that physical specimen, being like, hey, who's number 17 and why aren't you using him more? And it begs the question in my mind as Kendall Briles comes in with a lot of guys that have been on this offense and on this roster for a couple years. Is there anybody that stands out to you as could be that Legette type of guy that a new offensive coordinator, a new set of eyes, maybe unlocks more of than what we've seen so far in their career here?
Yeah, I got 2 of them, and maybe not even necessarily that it's a new set of eyes, but also just a different scheme, a different system, a different approach. Sometimes that can open up things for guys. For me, I would say probably Matt Fuller comes to mind immediately, just a guy we saw, and we've talked about him all offseason, but we saw the flashes last year. Everybody did. The long run against LSU, the kind of salting the game away against Kentucky, where you're just running the ball every play on the drive. Like, you saw there was some ability here, but I think all the reports we've heard out of spring ball was that Matt had taken his game to another level under kind of this system. And not quite the same situation as Zay, but I would maybe say a DJ Black. Yeah, he's a transfer, but you look at the fact this is somebody who actually started his career at South Carolina, was a walk-on. This is a kid who was like 5'6" and played running back his freshman year or so of high school and just hit a growth spurt, and then all of a sudden started breaking Debo Samuel's high school records. Gets to college. Obviously, there's going to be a jump there for anybody, but you're trying to work your way in as a preferred walk-on. You've still only played a number of years of wide receiver, and, I think when he ended up at UCF, there were some really high expectations for him there based on what they saw in the offseason. Did not have a huge year last year, but did, start to probably had his most productive year in terms of at that level. And I just think there's some pretty positive buzz on DJ right now. So those be the 2 guys that I think will benefit pretty well from this scheme. My one question on DJ is still just, all right, is he going to be a starter, or is he just going to be someone that we know is in the rotation and can help this team?
Yeah, and of course, those are the two that came to my mind. And you know, I don't think anybody – I do distinctly remember following Xavier Legette's career, most of us around here were like, man, if that guy could ever put it together. He is big and fast and talented. I don't think any of us saw the season that he ended up having. And even with, remember, you know, going into his final year, that bowl game that Dow referenced, that was the Notre Dame game. He had the great touchdown in that game. He had 7 catches. You know, that was his career high at that point. And then he comes, you know, storming onto the scene as a fifth-year senior the next season. I don't know if any of us saw that or first-round pick. Like, did you look at Xavier Legette and say, that guy has, like, top 2 or 3 round NFL talent? Yes, but there were inconsistencies. There were offenses that, frankly, weren't that good. Like, there were a lot of reasons why you maybe wouldn't have picked that. You know, DJ Black is not a guy that, like, I think he's big and can run, and he's experienced, and he's had some very productive seasons at his previous stops at UCF, lower level at Limestone with Mike Furry as his coach there. I'm not sitting here saying, well, DJ Black's going to take a jump to being a first-round pick, right? Most of us thought Xavier Legette's going to start going into 2023. We don't even know that about DJ. But could this all help him take a jump? Yeah. Fuller's the one that makes the most sense to me. And, again, it's different than X, different position. He's a third-year player as opposed to being a fifth-year player. But similar reasons, right? Like, year one, he's behind some guys. Last season, there was competition in that running back room, the rotation. We were all trying to, you know, kind of figure out what was going on there all year. But all the returns, you know, when you talk about winter workouts and spring ball and even now into the summer, I've been very positive on Matt Fuller in terms of how he looks and the production that he's put forth in practice. And he does have, you know, some glimpses that we've seen, that run, that 72-yard touchdown run you mentioned, Wes, against LSU last season. Like, he's shown a little bit of that. It's not that you have nothing to go off of, but this new offense and the opportunities that it's afforded him, I think, have been really, really good for his potential development.
I threw out, when Jack and I were talking about this earlier, I threw out a guy in Jordan Howell as well. Again, this running back room seems to be very, very wide open. Does somebody establish themselves as RB1? Is it more of a committee type of thing the entire season? We don't really know. But I go back to when Howell came in from SC State a couple seasons ago, and people talked about, obviously, what he did there, his upside potential, and the fact that he was probably going to be a multi-year process type of guy to eventually get him to where he wanted to be. And we saw glimpses of that towards the end of his first year here at Carolina. Of course, he fumbles in the bowl game and doesn't really touch the ball after that, and then just doesn't get a ton of run last year. But I do wonder, with the new coordinator, and as Wes pointed out a little bit earlier, a difference in scheme, if that's something that might benefit him a little bit more. And I'm not saying he's going to go out there and be RB1 or something like that, but having more of an impact on the offense than what he's had in the past couple of years is something that wouldn't surprise me if that ends up happening.
Well, and Jawarn's kind of one of those guys I think just never seems to get a ton of fanfare, but then when you put him in a game, other than the fumble you talked about, has been productive. Like, I thought down the stretch last year, there were actually times where Jawarn looked like the best running back on the team. And so I think all those guys have something that they bring to the table. For Jawarn, it's just going to be about, can you find those snaps? Can you find those reps? You got Christian Clark in there, obviously, as we know. I mean, Augustave, Chris and I say this all the time, like, this guy looks like $1 million physically. So I think that would be one of those more fascinating, like, continuous storylines throughout the year is who's first up, which we think is probably Fuller and Christian Clark if it continues with its current trend. But last year it was more like, all right, we're maybe not getting what you want out of the running game. Let's give the next guy, and then let's give the next guy a chance. So who, will that room sort of be like that this year, or will the first two guys kind of just take over the position? I think will be the I guess, main factor there. Also, guys get bumps and bruises at that position. So just because you're not first or second on game 1 doesn't mean that you're not going to be a huge part of what they do by game 5.
Also, Dow Logan's still very sharp with his XL impression there. He hasn't skipped a beat on that one.
I think he's been working on that one in the mirror ever since he left.
Well, he is in the mountains of North Carolina, so he probably deals with a lot of people that talk like that now.
True.
So there you go. But again, appreciate Dow Loggins joining us on the halftime show the other day. Today is June the 30th, and it is the final day, the end of the era for Under Armour outfitting South Carolina. We'll break in a new era tomorrow with Nike out at Gamecock Traditions, but we'll reflect on the Under Armour era coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game.
Yeah, this head ball coach, he ran a what? Hey, I told you he could really go. Yeah, click clack.
All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tarwitz Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. Of course, everybody remembers the click-clack commercial for Steve Spurrier all those years ago that signaled the beginning of the South Carolina and Under Armour partnership all the way back in 2007. And today it officially comes to an end. Again, tomorrow morning we'll be out there from 9 until noon at Gamecock Traditions on Sunset Boulevard in Lexington, welcoming in the Nike Air while all of you are coming in, buying your T-shirts and hats and all that kind of stuff. Come hang out with us from 9 until noon tomorrow. But guys, this ends a chapter of Carolina athletics that from an apparel standpoint, the fan base has very much been clamoring for. I've said many times, I've been here for 4 years, and the entire time people have been talking about how ready they are to move on from Under Armour. They're finally getting that wish. However, the past 20 years do represent the most successful time period in the history of South Carolina athletics. National championships in women's basketball and baseball. Obviously, the 11-win seasons in football. A Final Four appearance for men's basketball. These past 20 years, you may not have liked what the outfits looked like, but no doubt it's been a very successful past 2 decades on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, and I think, man, honestly, a lot of the jerseys, speaking more on the football side, I've thought the jerseys have looked pretty good over the years, some better than others, but there's been some what you would call kind of modern classics, I think, for South Carolina under that Under Armour umbrella. And, you know, to me, it's one of those things that it's probably a little bit bittersweet. Like, there's excitement about Nike, and I'm excited for everybody to see some of the stuff that's available to them starting tomorrow. And I would also warn, like, this is kind of going to be a cascading release in that there's going to be a lot of Nike stuff available tomorrow. But just because there's a shirt or something that you want and is not available on Wednesday doesn't mean that it won't ultimately be available at some point in the coming weeks, the coming months. Like, this is going to be a rollout, so to speak, not just, boom, snap your fingers, everything you could possibly ever want is available right now. So I would keep that in mind tomorrow. But, yeah, there's been a lot of work put in behind the scenes from South Carolina on rolling this out. I would expect more information from the school, probably tomorrow morning too. And I know there's lots of people excited about, especially the guys at Gamecock Traditions, just getting this stuff out there and having it available to the fans who have waited for it for a long time. And I think the student athletes, man, just being able to wear Nike shoes and, officially wear Nike shoes. And, I think that's the big thing, honestly. Like, the check, the swoosh, like that still matters to athletes, even in the NIL era. And, it's also already been announced that this opened up some windows, some doors for people like Lenoris, Nick Harbor, Dylan Stewart, future athletes to do some direct deals with Nike as well and implement that into everything that they have going on the NIL front. Those opportunities would have been available with other companies as well, but there's a certain cachet that comes with being able to say you're doing a deal directly with Nike.
Yes. A lot of opportunities here. And by the way, kind of to your point, Wes, Jeremiah Donati put out one of his From the Desk of Jeremiah Donati newsletters, I guess the best way to put it. And he did mention kind of what you did. Be a little patient, because as this rollout process happens, the retailers are going to be, scaling up their operations. There's obviously going to be a lot of demand for this new product. And so if you don't see it, that's coming at some point. I would imagine we're going to see a lot of places, hey, around social media, hey, check out this new shirt design. And people are going to say, oh, I went so-and-so, and they're out, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take some time to scale it all up. But I kind of go back to, one of the questions that we had when Donati got this job is, everybody kind of was looking forward to the potential of switching away from Under Armour. And you knew the background that he had with Nike. Wes Millett, who's his deputy, also has a background with Nike as an apparel provider. And it was kind of we didn't know for sure that it would happen at first, but it became increasingly evident that it was going to happen. And, Donati, I've heard him talk to some groups over time, and he just explained it as like, look, we want our student athletes to have the best, and we think Nike's the best, and that's kind of what it came down to. Yes, it's going to give some other opportunities, like you said, Wes, but, just for the fan base and really for the student athletes who are wearing this gear day in and day out, they just thought that Nike was kind of the brand, and so that's one of the changes that he wanted to make. But, yeah, I saw USC, to go back to Under Armour, they put out a thank you note on social to Under Armour. That's obviously been a long partnership, and this past year, and past maybe couple years, there have been some down moments in that era. And, of course, Under Armour isn't driving the bus on what happens with Gamecock Athletics, but, you kind of associate the eras. As you mentioned, Tyler, there have been certainly some big moments during that window, too.
Yeah. I guess if we're having to define one specific moment during that period of time, is it the first baseball national championship, winning it with a walk-off?
I don't even know if you can give one, man. That just feels so unfair. Like, they can give one per sport. No?
Probably. I mean, would that be baseball's? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. But, winning multiple national titles in women's basketball.
Yeah. Is there a specific moment for that we can point to out of any of those three?
I just think of the celebrations when it comes to that. Just those shots of each one of confetti raining down and the smiles and all that. I think you look at football would be actually difficult to pin down your one moment. I think making the Final Four is probably it for men's basketball. Football, you could go. I think if you go outside the South Carolina bubble, the hit comes to people's mind, but it would, to me, it's a little off just to put a tackle as your key moment for a program, for a team.
Do you want to brainstorm on this in the break? See if we can get something definitive to wrap up the show?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Also, hit us up, Firehouse Subs text line 803-404-6100. Your favorite moment of the Under Armour era over the past 20 years for South Carolina athletics. We'll hit those as we wrap up the show coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. And welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Ty West and Chris with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, tomorrow from 9 until noon, we'll be hanging out at Gamecock Traditions at 5134 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington for the official release of Nike apparel for the University of South Carolina. Jay Phillips also going to be hanging out later on in the day from 3 until 6. So come by and hang out with us as you're buying all your new gear as we start the Nike era officially on July 1st. Have we settled on a definitive moment for football in the break for the past 20 years?
No, y'all are going to have to be the tiebreaker. I think... So I did a search just to give some ideas, and I'm picking my favorites out of them. I think in the conversation has to be... We'll put the hit in the conversation, but I don't think it should be number one.
Okay.
Beating Florida to clinch the East. My two that are tied at the top are beating Florida to win the East or knocking off number one, Alabama. I think those are your top two. Now, right below that, I would have the hit. I would have crushing Tyler's Georgia Bulldogs in 2012 on what might be just one of the best nights in Gamecock football history in terms of just everything going right. Maybe the comeback win at Missouri. And I would also have the 5 straight wins over Clemson all lumped together.
Okay.
In this conversation. What do y'all think?
You know, Gamecocks Online, several years ago, it was going into Spurrier's 10th season in Columbia. They did like a top 10 moments of the Spurrier era, and so most of those, obviously, the Under Armour era, had a lot of carryover here. So the fans voted on it, and they voted for the Alabama game, beating number one. I think number 2 was 5 in a row versus Clemson. You think about that. Carolina at that point had won 5 in a row, so that was the one for the thumb game. Home winning streak was sitting at 18 games in 2013. Yeah, you're riding high for that one. So, I think, get the game in the swamp where you clinch the opportunity to go to Atlanta for the first time. I went to that game, SEC title game, and, Cam Newton and the Auburn team, they certainly sucked the life out of the fan base as that thing, progressed. But
well, they did that to everyone that year.
They did that to everybody, yeah, to be fair. But, the buzz and that feeling of Carolina's actually here, was crazy. So, yeah, I agree with those. It is hard to pick one.
I could get behind the Alabama game. Just it's the only time we've ever beaten number one team in school history. That kind of was the starting point of what would come in the next couple of years with all the success. Of course, that's the same year you did win the East, so sparked that. And then the 11-win season that followed that. It's kind of a point that I think a lot of people look at as saying that's where the good times really started to begin. That would carry for a couple of years there. So I could see how a lot of people might point to that as maybe kind of the definitive moment for the past 20 years, basically.
Yeah, and I think like some other great moments, like beating Tennessee at home when nobody expected it, was like a awesome, putting up 63 points on what was supposed to be a playoff team. Like people will never forget that night. But I think it doesn't quite get the same gravity because it didn't mean you were going on to bigger and better things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
There has to be some gravity to it. Like, if South Carolina were to go to the playoff in 2024, then I think beating Clemson at Clemson and specifically Sellers' touchdown run goes way up if that were to happen,
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have gone to the playoff, probably whatever happened in the playoff quickly finds its way onto this list, even if you lost, like just making the play. But if that run was what put you in the playoff, then absolutely. But if Nick Eamon-Worry's pick six stands and there's not a penalty, that's probably a top 20 moment in the last 20 years.
Yeah, it is hard. Some things can make, that 2010 Alabama game, it ends up being an SEC East winning season. So not only is it a number one team, but there's some additional gravity. That's a good word, Wes, to it. South Carolina 2012, that was the 35-7 win over Tyler's Georgia Bulldogs. And I feel like it makes it just because it was so awesome. But ultimately, that wasn't a team that, made it back to Atlanta or made the national championship game. Like, you didn't have those things, but it was just so. I don't think people were surprised that South Carolina won that game. South Carolina was an awesome team that year, as we saw. But to win it in that fashion, was just amazing. It in some ways was. It was kind of similar to the Tennessee game, although, had some similarities, but also some key differences. One being nobody expected South Carolina to even win that game, much less put up 63 points in that game.
Real quick submission here on the text line for women's basketball in terms of definitive moment. How about Cardoso's buzzer three against Tennessee to preserve the perfect season in the semifinals of the SEC championship game? Again, not a national championship like moment that happened then, but one that obviously holds great significance for what the season would ultimately end up becoming. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think that's a top 10 moment for women's basketball. I don't know if I would have it number one. Just to me, it's when you've won multiple titles, the definitive image you have to me has got to involve winning the actual title. But in terms of plays, if we want to talk about plays, that one has got to be way up there because it's not like you hit a buzzer beater to win the title.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? But that would be the number one play. So, yeah, I get it. We'll accept it.
Yeah, well, we're officially closing the book on the Under Armour era as tomorrow, again, we're out at Gamecock Traditions from 9 until noon at Sunset Boulevard in Lexington as we'll welcome in the Nike era. Come by and hang out with us, get your new gear, get your new apparel, and talk some football with us as well, as we're going to be hanging out all morning long as we enter the back half of 2026. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show up next. Myself and Bill Gunner on your Tuesday on the Game.